Hello and welcome to another fanfiction review. It is I, Dark Symphony 777, with this beard that I do not like, and I would shave it off if not for the fact my freaking razor is gone, and so I probably have to buy a new one because it's like, it's gone. Poof. I just completely got off topic for some reason. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, and leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story and any future stories you want me to review, and as well as any other things. So, what happens when you take a beloved Nintendo game, you throw it in a blender, you take some crack, you throw that in the blender too, you take some bubble, you toss it in as well as some LCD, Lucky Charms, and all sorts of zaniness, and Waluigi, and angel dust and everything, and you grind it up and you fold it, and then you inject it into the folds of your scrotum. God dang it, oh, I love Mad World. You get the fanfiction I'm reviewing today. Super Mario 64 DS CARA, the fanfic. Wow, what a mouthful. That's a mouthful. So, Super Mario 64 DS CARA, the fanfic, is a Mario fanfiction written by Aurora Mage. I keep thinking, when I saw that, I keep thinking of Aurora Mages from Yu-Gi-Oh! Because, you know, it's basically just the same thing, just replace an R with just add an M to it. Aurora Mage. And the synopsis is, what happens when a video game is adopted as a choose a random adventure on a forum? What happens when the characters and the plot you change? What happens when there are more references than there ever in the original? Find out here. And basically, this is an adventure parody story. And I think this is one of the more crazy stories. You're not gonna find a serious story here. Granted, the story does get serious at the end and slowly over the course of the story, but mainly this is a comedic story, and it's probably one of the more extremely well done, executed comedy stories I've ever read. So first off, before I get into the actual review, I thought I should explain what is Super Mario 64 DS and what is a CARA. Now, I don't know much about what a CARA is. I actually did a little bit of research of it. CARA means choose a random adventure. It's actually in the synopsis. That's actually how I found the forum that kind of caused the creation of this fanfic. Basically, it's try and make a random ass adventure, try and combine several elements of comedy and adventure, and let's see what works. It's basically just a create your own adventure, and just make it completely stupid and retarded and hilarious. And that's the point. You take one guy, you say he goes from point A to point B, and the shenanigans happen in between. So that's basically it. Super Mario 64 DS, on the other hand, is a remake of the classic Nintendo game Super Mario 64, released as a launch title, I believe it was, for the Nintendo DS. I actually own this game. I actually bought this game with the DS. It actually came with the DS, hence why I think it was a launch title. And overall, it differs enough from the original game that it kind of satisfied new players as well as old players, because it gives you more stars to do. It gives you the rabbit mechanic, mini game, lots and lots of mini games that you can go back to and constantly play. It allows you to play as 4 characters: Yoshi, Mario, Luigi, and Wario. And overall gives you a better experience. Even the camera is fixed up. And the only problem I had with the original Mario 64 was, goddamn, that camera. I think Mario 64 is one of the very first examples of you fighting the camera more than you playing the game. I mean, I would prefer the DS camera than the 64, the original camera. So basically, what is the plot? Well, basically, there's a plot within a plot. Sort of spiel. So let's start with the main plot. Basically, the main plot is basically just the events of Super Mario 64. Peach invites Mario, Luigi, and Wario to her castle to bake cake. And then they go into the cake while Yoshi's sleeping on top of the castle. But then he's waking up by a Lakitu who tells him, "Hey, they're gone missing. They're not in there anymore. Can you try and find them?" And then Yoshi finally realizes that Bowser's taken the Power Stars from the castle, locked up Mario, Luigi, and Wario, and basically turned a bunch of worlds from paintings. Like, he turned a bunch of paintings into actual worlds. And so Yoshi journeys to save them while also helping them stop Bowser. But the second plot behind the plot is this mysterious guy who's only revealed in like the last chapter or two, who wants to collect the Power Stars for an unknown purpose. And so he tries to stop Mario, Yoshi specifically, but like all the Star Children, from like trying to stop his plans. And he gets Mr. L. He gets someone I'm gonna talk about a little bit because he's just so ridiculous. He gets Bowser to help him, and so it's basically trying to be a race to see who can get all the Power Stars. And so Yoshi and the gang have to stop him. And overall, I think the plot was executed pretty well, especially for a comedy fan fiction. I mean, you don't see well executed plots out of a comedy story. Yes, it was adventure parody, but when I actually first read the story, I actually read the story first off right after the time it last updated, so like mid-August. It was actually a comedy parody, if I remember right. It changed to an adventure parody, which fits the story much better. And I thought, well, this was done pretty well, and then I thought this was just a more curious romp, more like completely Bobo style adventure. Like, Bobo is probably one of my favorite animes of all time because of how ridiculous it is. And you get a lot of shenanigans, stuff like that. And then seeing it slowly go from a pure comedic romp to and slowly transforming into a super serious fan fiction that is like really dark and you actually worried about the protagonist. It's a pretty harrowing line that I think the author kind of traversed very carefully and did pretty well. Is there anything I don't like about the plot? There's bits and pieces, but they're more minor nitpicks than anything. I don't like the fact. First of all, I don't like the fact that near the end, it was pretty much becoming a curb stomp in like every single fight, because there was no danger. I mean, the only real danger happened was in like one or two chapters. When it actually stopped doing the RPG style battle, because that's another thing. All the main combat stuff happens in like a sort of Super Mario RPG sort of way, where like everyone's lined up in a row and you have like gimmicks and everyone has like a bunch of HP and you have to try it. And it's basically like that, especially when after a while the group gets so big that it kind of gets in the way, because it kind of saps some of the suspense away. Not as bad as another fan fiction I read, which was, oh my god, that was even worse. Oh my god. I dare people to guess what that fan fiction was. They're gonna be it's Paper Chopper. And overall, I think the plot was done really well. Characters, we have a crap ton. We have a myriad of characters. So I could just imagine in like the forum, a Romage, because he's actually a character. Surprise, surprise. And like some of his other forum mates, they're like talking about the plot. It's like, I have an idea for a story. Shoot, let's do a parody of Super Mario 64. Nah, DS. Oh man, who shall we have as the characters? Well, we have to include the main cast, right? Makes sense. So that's Yoshi, Mario, Luigi, Wario, and Bowser. Okay, and let's add a bunch of other characters too. Right? Let's add Mr. L from Super Mario. Well, how's that supposed to make sense? Simple. We have Mario 64 DS take place after the events of Super Paper Mario and all that stuff. What about Galaxy? We'll have it take place before Galaxy. All right. It's cool. Makes sense. All right. Who else? Do we have anyone else? Yes. Waluigi. Why? Because, you know, Mario has Luigi, Wario has that one too. Makes sense. And let's add Birdo. Why? Why Birdo? Because they need a chick on their team? But isn't Birdo trans? Let's make Birdo a chick. Can't you make her trans? They did that with Vivian from Paper Mario. All right. We'll make Birdo a chick. Who else? Let's add a Boo. All right. Who talks like this? Are you on something? And then let's add a Goomba. Why a Goomba? I don't know. I wanted a Goomba. And let's make him do magic. Let's call him a Magic Goomba. Alright. That's kind of creative. Is that everyone? Let's add Donkey Kong. Alright. Alright. Donkey Kong's cool. We have him. We need the muscle. It's like, and then let's add Lucky the Leprechaun. What? Lucky the Leprechaun. As a Lucky the Leprechaun. Yes. The breakfast mascot. Yes. Why? I don't know. What would he even do? He throws his cereal at people. That's the stupidest thing. And he uses his Lucky Charms as magical icons. Are you on something? Yes. And let's add the Kellogg's Rooster. Why? And let's make the Kellogg's Rooster a bad guy. Why? And then let's make him evil, and his motivation could be he's tired of all the other cereals tasting better than him. What? Okay, that's not bad, but why? Because I'm crazy. Are you on something? Define on something. Are you on drugs? Define drugs. Something you ingest that kind of makes you have a false sense of euphoria and destroy your body. It's 100 pounds of chocolate drugs. Well, it could be if you ate that much. Then I'm 100 pounds of chocolate. See, that's pretty much the main crew. You have those five. Look, I was completely blown away. It's like, when I got to the part where they literally fought an entire army of breakfast mascots. It's like, are they really fighting breakfast mascots? And I was like, I'm great! They're fighting breakfast mascots. And then the crew, at that point in the story, was basically just Yoshi, Mario, Donkey Kong. I forgot one. What? A rabbit. A rabbit? Yes. What a rabbit? Wait, what do you do? Okay, what is the rabbit gonna do? Hop around like a little thing? No. What is he gonna do? He's gonna be a Mario fanboy. Those chocolates have gotten to your head, man. No, hear me out. You know the rabbits that you chase around in Super Mario 64. Yes, the ones that give you the keys to unlock the mini games. Yeah. Have one of them join the group. But those rabbits don't really add anything besides giving you mini games. All right. What about the rabbit at the beginning? What rabbit at the beginning? You know when Yoshi's trying to get to the castle and he needs a key to unlock it, and the rabbit has that. Yeah. Have that rabbit team up with him. You know what? I give up. No, I'm done. Nope, I'm done. So yeah, it's basically like all that grip. And he calls himself the Crimson Crusader. So anyway, back attacks. There are a lot of weird characters. Like I wasn't expecting Lucky the Leprechaun to actually join the heroes. Then again, I wasn't expecting the Kellogg's Rooster to be British and call himself Krillin von Ruckerstein, which it's actually a pretty sounding cool name. I have to admit, it sounds cool. So we have the group of characters. They all pretty much act the same, but they still have their own individual quirks. Like Yoshi kind of takes stuff seriously, and he's the one who breaks the fourth wall. The Crimson Crusader, the rabbit, is a Mario fanboy. You have some serious characters. You have some comedic characters. Waluigi is probably the guy who steals the thunder in terms of comedy. Like literally, when he shows up, he's like ah, to the point he literally gets an ability called exclamation bomb, where it basically he throws bombs equals to the number of exclamation points said in the story up to that point, which I have to admit, that's creative. That's creative. You might as well say there's no fourth wall in the story because every single character breaks the fourth wall. Oh, even the author's a character. Fun fact. Whenever the author kind of shows up in the story, for some reason I always keep imagining him looking like Akuma the Hedgehog. If you don't know who Akuma the Hedgehog is, he's pretty much a popular Sonic original character. Like he's like one of the few very well done Sonic original characters that people actually like, and pretty much Sonic OC is a meme, but it's like if you look hard enough, you'll find some that are actually done pretty well. I mean, and Akuma's pretty much one of the very, very, very few that are actually done really, really well. So you have a bunch of zaniness, you have a bunch of weird, quirky characters that while acting the same, kind of have their own individual quirks. And it's pretty much just a fun romp with them. Grammar. I also know grammar errors. Pacing. How the chapter structure goes is that each individual chapter is actually a painting. It's actually a painting that, they go into. Like, the first chapter is the prologue. It's basically just Yoshi, Mario, Luigi, and Wario going into the castle. They find out about the letter, and then, it starts out like the opening of Super Mario 64 DS. And then Lakitu wakes up Yoshi. Yoshi tries to get into the castle, realizes he needs a key. The Lakitu tells him, hey, there's a rabbit in the garden with a key. Maybe that might unlock it. And then, Yoshi tries chasing the rabbit and, trying to get it. And he's like, oh, crud, he's too fast for me. And then the Tricks rabbit shows up, drops a thing of Tricks yogurt, tries to break into the castle and stabs his hand on glass. Just roll with it. It's a weird story. And then Yoshi uses the Tricks yogurt to get the rabbit to stay down for Yoshi to fight him. And then we get like the first fourth wall breaking moment, where the story kind of explains how the combat system works, which I thought was a really nice touch in terms of the whole fourth wall breaking thing. It's a really quirky story. Then after that, each chapter is basically a painting or saving one of the other characters, Mario, Luigi, and Wario. And then there's like a couple, I believe there's like 1, 2, 3, there's like 3 extra chapters, 4 if you count chapter 23. Yeah, chapter 20, chapter 22, my bad, because prologue and everything. And it's done really well. The pacing gives enough room to breathe to kind of show you, okay, here's what's going to happen in the story, here's the quirky stuff, and then we get one big fight that takes about half the story, and then, they move on. So it seems blocky at first, but it kind of has a weird flowing nature to it. I think it's done pretty well. Nearly 20 minutes. So the final thoughts. Would I recommend this story? This is kind of a weird one because of the simple fact. Oh wait, I'm not done with pacing. I just realized it. I just realized I'm not done with the pacing. Because there's one big thing I want to talk about, and that's the tonal shift from the beginning to the end. The tonal shift basically starts like a very comedic romp. It just feels like something you just want to laugh at, and it's so hilarious, and you can't help but be entertained by it. But as the story kind of progresses, it gets darker and darker and darker, and that's kind of represented by what happens to the author. It gets to the point that near the end, the author doesn't even show up at all. Like I believe it's chapter. I believe he doesn't even show up at. Yeah, like the last chapter he shows up at is the oh yeah. Would be Rainbow Ride. Rainbow Ride would be the last chapter he shows up, and then after that he doesn't show up at all. Kind of representing, yeah, it's gonna get real, and I think how the pacing goes about it is it slowly introduces more darker and darker elements as the chapters go on. Kind of representing, okay, yeah, there's gonna be stuff happening. Like the first time it actually gets like a kind of dark would be as early as chapter 2. I mean, the prologue is just showing you how the world works. Chapter 1 is just introducing the whole comedy stuff. While chapter 2 has a gigantic fourth wall break. Some more comedy. And then, one gigantic battle start. And even there's like an author's note. It's like, the following section contains intense amount of fourth wall breaking and hardly any fighting at all. This is not what you came for. Too bad. If you use the find to search for the words battle restart, you should be able to quickly go straight to the actual fighting. If you wish to read the fourth wall breaking material, please note that some side effects to reading fourth wall breaking material are delirium, insanity, 10 days in the fetal position, vomiting, diarrhea, fever, headache, stomach ache, spleen ache. I don't even know how that one works. Abdominal pain, flatulence, blindness, heart attack, stroke, and occasional random staples to the back. Thank you and enjoy the following. And then, it starts out like completely hilarious with an over 9,000 joke. Then when it gets the battle restart, it basically just has to run around, and then the entirety of Womp's fortress kind of just is destroyed. And everything that happened, and then it slowly starts getting darker. It slowly starts encompassing the entire story, but still keeping that levity of comedy there. I mean, it still has some comedy elements, even at the very end. I believe there's still a joke or two, and like the final battle in space. But after that last couple jokes, it becomes pretty much entirely serious. Even then, I think it's like one or two. Even then, I think it's like one joke. One joke during the fight. No, never mind. The entirety of chapter 22 is like super serious. I'm thinking of chapter 21 when they're fighting Bowser in the sky level. But overall, I think slowly the dark tonal shift kind of slowly covering the entirety of the story, aside to the point where there's no comedic elements at the end, is really well done, and I thought I'd highlight that. It's not my favorite part. So let's see. What I recommend this is kind of a weird one because it's a comedy story, but at the same time it's not. It's a really weird one. And so you kind of get the idea of what's gonna happen. Do I like this story? I really do, but I don't think this story is really gonna be for anyone. Mainly because, it's first off, the story is written in script. All the characters are talk in script, so it's like So not script is like the least favorable writing styles ever, because you know it's script. You can't really talk about that. It's really weird, and a lot of people will be thrown off about it. Sir, it'll be mitigated by the fact it's a comedy story at the beginning, but as the story goes on, the script style of writing kind of feels more and more out of place as the story gets darker and darker. And the last chapter kind of shows what the author could do is if he eschewed the script writing out of it, because he could probably write the story in non-script, in full prose and exposition and stuff like that, and still make it pretty hilarious and quirky and stuff like that. But I do think the script kind of saves this, kind of makes it, give it a charm of its own. Do I hate the story? No, I do think this is a very quirky story. It has a personality. The story is full of personality. You have such a fun, hilarious moments. Actually, when I first read this, I actually laughed throughout the entire story. There was no moment where I couldn't help but laugh. And my mom actually kept coming into my room and say, "Why are you laughing at it?" So I'm laughing at the story because it was so funny. And so when I went through the story the second time, I can appreciate it. I kind of saw through the writing and realized, some of these jokes are not as good. They kind of aged, but at the same time, a lot of jokes still hold themselves, and the script writing kind of actually helps a lot of them out. So I think overall, it's a net positive for the story to be kept in script writing. But would I recommend? That's a hard one, because again, humor is very subjective, and so when I get to pure comedy stories, despite the fact this was kind of a weird quasi comedy, it's kind of hard to whether or not to recommend the story. But I am gonna recommend the story. I do think this is just a crazy really hilarious story. I don't know. I mean, I would really like to see, and this is just wishful thinking. This is not me wanting to change the story at all. I would just really like to see what would happen if the author actually remade the story in full prose and exposition and stuff like that, and made it into an actual novel, kept the jokes intact, kept everything intact, and made it into a full-fledged story, because that would be really cool. But that's nothing to take away from this story at all. Favorite part? Basically, when it comes to my favorite part, you're basically boiling down to what was my favorite joke. And there was one joke I felt kind of stood out. I didn't want to do the fourth wall breaking joke, because that was one of the few jokes that kind of didn't age well. The one where they're at the Womp Fortress and a fight in the Womp King. I felt that joke kind of didn't age as well. But I really liked this joke. The joke is from Chapter 19, which is the Rainbow Ride level. The Rainbow Ride chapter. Rainbow Ride was this very complicated map in Super Mario 64 with barely any platforming. It was very hard. I died a lot in that map. Let's see. And it has basically Krillian, the Kellogg's Rooster, challenging them to contest where if they win, every time they win a match, they get a power star. So but it's a plan to get them duped and stuff like this. Where is it? Oh yeah, here it is. Basically, the first fight is basically Wario versus Tiramisu. Tiramisu was the main antagonist of Wario, Master of Disguise. And so basically, it's just them fighting it out in a steel cage. I don't know why not. And here's the joke. I'm going to tell you the whole joke. Basically, after the first attack from each, and he goes, "What the heck? Oh, did you really think you could beat me? Just beat me like that? You'll have to deal with all 100% of this fine demon meat." And then Wario goes, "Kill it! Kill it now! Kill it with fire! I like fire. Kill it with roses! I love roses. Kill it with chocolates! Chocolates turn me on. Dear God, why isn't anything working?" And then God shows up and says, "I don't know, it's horrible." Then Yoshi goes, "I don't know what's worse, her flirting or his setups." Waluigi says, "I think I'm going to be sick." And then Krillian, the Kellogg's Rooster, said, "I'd probably be enjoying all the torture the heroes are going through. if I wasn't going through it myself. I think that was the best joke of the entire story because I couldn't help. I just laughed and laughed and laughed for about 5 minutes. I couldn't help but laugh at that. And so overall, that was pretty much my favorite joke. I actually really like a lot of the story, like over half the story. Would I change anything? The only thing I would really change is the spacing between characters because when multiple characters talk one after another, it becomes kind of like blocky, and it kind of becomes confusing. I would just simply want them spaced so that way you kind of know what what the full extent of what they're saying is. Because the author kind of switches between talking and prose like really, really quickly, and so it kind of gets confusing. And there was a few times where I had to actually reread a scene because I kind of misread it a little bit. So I just simply space the lines between what the characters say, and that's it. Final thoughts. I really love the story. I think it's a story worth reading. I think more than any other story, I think this is probably one of the best comedic stories ever on fanfiction in general. I read a lot of comedic fanfictions, but usually, again, as a comedic story gets longer, it kind of becomes harder and harder to do the comedic elements. But I think this one balanced that really well by having an engaging plot, pretty well done characters. Having the glacial tonal shift kind of give it a balance, so that way you still get the comedic elements, but at the same time you get the serious elements, and it plays like a balancing game of like constantly trying to sway one to the side to the other, and I think it was done really well. I think this is probably one of my favorite comedy stories, if not my favorite personally. I think this just has so much fun, so much personality, and I just think it's not a masterpiece. No, far from it. But if you just want a story to have fun with, to just laugh and laugh at, I can't really see anything wrong. I cannot see anything wrong with reading this story. So, that's my review on Super Mario 64 DS CARA, the fanfiction. Still, what a mouthful. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.